It was rainy and cloudy the day before and the evening before, and we knew the president was going to come to town, and I can remember thinking, well, this is going to be a really crappy place. Friday, I guess it was, Friday, November 22nd, it was real nice. And then, of course, I got in the bus, went to school, and I can't remember now how we found out. Oh, I was in gym class.
Okay.
And the gym instructor, a guy by the name of Mr. Savay, and Mr. Savay comes in, we're sitting there on the bleachers. He said, "Gentlemen, the president has been shot." And we asked, "How do you know?" And they said, "Well, KLIF radio just reported it." He came back out, he went into his office, and he came back out and said that KLIF radio had announced that Governor Conley had been killed. He had been assassinated, and there wasn't any word on President Kennedy other than he was still alive and had been taken to the hospital. And of course that wasn't correct. Now, this is terrible to say this, but you want a recounting of it. Many of us were glad because it ended gym class.
Right.
I mean, that tells you about the juvenile mind. I mean, we're like mice. I mean, we can't think past the next 45 seconds. And so all we knew is, no gym class. They've shut the school down. And so we were all told to go out and get on the bus and go home. Yeah, my dad was downtown at the time Kennedy was assassinated, and he called home. I was home by then. They'd shut school down. We'd gotten on the school bus. This is the last thing I remember. And I somehow got the impression from what he said, based on what my mother told me he said, because she was on the phone with him, that Kennedy was driving in downtown Dallas and someone had come in a car next to him and shot him and then drove off. My parents were just kind of in a torpor. They were stunned. And then, of course, over the weekend, that was even worse, because that was when Oswald was shot. And I was with my great-grandmother. She was born in 1877. I was watching television with her, and Oswald was shot right before our eyes. Could not frigging believe it. And she was absolutely hit the hardest by the Kennedy assassination because she loved the guy. And she was just in tears for the whole weekend, just very fragile emotionally. This old frontier woman who had fought Indians on the prairie, literally in the 1890s, as a young woman. I mean, she'd lived through a lot, and then this thing just hit her like a sledgehammer. WFAA television, Channel 8, the ABC affiliate, locally what they broadcast were Life magazine. You know, I can't remember if they just broadcast still frames or the film itself. But I saw something, either still frames from the film or the moving film on WFAA television, and the reason is the general manager of WFAA, Mike Shapiro, refused to air it. And there was a huge outcry in the city of Dallas. We want to see it.
Yeah.
And ABC, I think, owned the rights to show it, so you couldn't go to the NBC or CBS affiliates. And if Mike Shapiro wasn't going to let his station show it, well, we weren't going to see it.
Right.
And finally he relented and he showed something, either the film or the still frames. I have just recently downloaded onto my computer a computer-enhanced version of the Zapruder film, and it's it's terrible. My first job out of graduate school, Columbia University. I got a master's degree in journalism from Columbia University in New York. Then I went back to Dallas, my hometown, For some reason I cannot now remember, I had to go to Parkland Hospital to interview a Dr. Giesecke. Dr. Giesecke, you can find him, I'm sure, on the internet. He was Kennedy's anesthesiologist when Kennedy was brought into Parkland from the car. And I can remember Giesecke saying he really didn't need anesthesiology, he was just dead. His brain was blown out, but he said, I went ahead and anesthetized him in the event he might be able to feel something. But they anesthetized the poor devil, and I mean, there wasn't any brain there. But I mean, I guess you don't really know what sensations someone might. He may have been breathing, or maybe he wasn't. I don't remember. I mean, all of that's documented, and you can look it up. But they did anesthetize him. I never believed any of them. I mean, I thought Oswald killed the guy. So no, I've never been impressed with those theories. Okay. I can remember when Dallas County opened the Texas School Depository Building as a museum. I covered that for KERA, and the county judge at that time was a guy by the name of Gary Weber, and he took me up to the 6th floor and let me look out the window that Oswald used to shoot Kennedy. And they had all the boxes and crates preserved up there as they were that day. Of course, it had all been walled off with thick plastic barriers, windows, so you couldn't actually get in there. You can just look through these windows and see this preserved area. But I got in there, and he said, now don't touch anything or move any of this stuff. And so my photographer and I had to be real careful to work our way around these boxes so that we didn't destroy the historical scene. But I can remember looking down there, and what amazed me is it wasn't that far from that window to the street. And I can see how you could get a rifle and do the job and have a pretty good chance of hitting the guy. I was in Washington, D.C. covering the Trilateral Commission meeting on March 31st, 1981, and I was sitting in the Baltimore Sun's Washington Bureau office interviewing the Baltimore Sun's bureau chief, Henry Truitt. And all of a sudden there was a teletype over there, and it went ding, 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 ding. 5 bells. 5 bells is a flash. 4 bells is a bulletin. And Truitt got up in the middle of the interview and ran over there. I mean, we were running, the cameras were running, and he pulled this, he said, my God, Ronald Reagan's been shot. And so we all got in a cab and went to the White House. And I was pressed into service to cover the assassination from the White House for my local station, KERA. And what I remember in answer to your question is just the overwhelming burden of trying to figure out how to manage all of this crap going on. I mean, how do I figure out what's going on? Just the chaos, the sheer, utter chaos of what was happening. And so, in partial or complete answer to your question, the news media are confronted with, it's like, to use the old cliche, it's like trying to drink out of a fire hose. It's just, you can't do it. It's just the onslaught of stuff is just so overwhelming. Where do you start?
Right.